Relax, let's come here this way. You get a different angle because we don't have external audio.
Oh,
so that's why we need to be close.
Yeah. If you want, we can give you the audio from us because it'll be from here. It'll be quite cool.
Anabolic
You've been training,
Yeah, Hamza, nice to meet you. Good to see you. I have seen some of your videos on YouTube. Yeah,
probably a while back actually.
yeah, it's been a
They're
while.
quite old videos.
Yeah, I watched the ones before and I found out about Aera.
Okay.
And looked at the system and stuff. I was quite impressed in a way. Aera was like, the fact that you were so organized has spurred me to think, you know what, we should have something which is organized to teach.
Oh, we inspired you.
Yeah, you've inspired. I
That's
take
good.
inspiration from everywhere, you know? So I
That's
thought I'd
good.
let you know about that. There's no reason not to.
Oh, thank you, bro. That's good.
So I think you guys, you know, with your sort of the literature and the fact that it's so free, that was good. I enjoyed it.
So what do you guys do? By the way, I know nothing about Sikhism, not much.
Okay.
So if you were to come to someone like me, what would be the first few things for you to say to someone like me?
Well, in a way, the first thing we would teach someone is that there's one creator, and all the human race is equal, and that every human being connected to God. And the gurus, they were sent by that creator to be a guide, but also that their message is not just about the morals, but the fact that inside each of us, there's a war between us and God, of ego. And the guru, he allows us to surrender to him, which makes us being able, through the guru, to experience the divine.
Through his teachings.
Yeah, through his teachings and through his the surrender to the guru, whether you call it the teachings or the personality, but inside you have that love for someone, you know? And the guru it allows us to do that. So yeah, that's what we were teaching, that Sikhism is pretty much a group of people that are following the 10 gurus and their teachings. You can't take the guru out of Sikhism. Sikhism is all about the guru.
Why is that?
Because the guru is the person that came with that truth. The guru is the one that can do grace. So compared to, say, a philosophy.
Intrinsically, or is it by the divine?
Yeah, why the divine.
Okay.
But he has the power to do grace. He's been given that authority by God.
Okay.
So
How do you know? I want to ask that question. How do you know he's a guru, he's special, and he's been given grace, or he has the ability to give grace?
Well, when he does grace upon you, then you realize, oh, that grace comes from the guru.
So it's experiential.
Yeah, we don't try to prove our religion through any arguments or anything else like that.
Oh, it's purely experiential.
We just say, look at the guru's lives. You know, most Sikhs grow up learning about the guru's lives. They grow up learning about what the gurus were teaching, and that then allows them to say, oh wow, the gurus are great. You know, once they start getting the idea the guru are great, then where did they get this from? Where did their teachings come from? Where did they get this inspiration? Where did they get this strength from? You know, and what are their teachings? So when you start putting their teachings into practice, and then you appreciate, like, wow, the gurus are not only amazing, but the teachings work.
Absolutely. The only problem I may have with that, just intuitively, is that if you already know what greatness is, then you don't need the guru. Because if you're judging a guru by a standard of greatness, and you already know what that greatness is, then you don't need the guru as a source of greatness anymore.
Well, I would say
I want to know, how is the guru as well, and Sikhism in general, a foundation for morality, a foundation for the purpose of life? Because if you already have a standard, and you're applying that standard to your standard, then there's a problem. Can you see that?
Only if you assume that all of us are complete idiots. That we can't work out even a simple percentage of what is true or not. I think that God's light is inside all of us, and that all of us have a certain potential to understand. Within a scale of 0 to 100, I would say that most of us, human beings across the world, every religion, can come to some agreement about decent moral human values.
Absolutely.
So that percentage is, say, maybe 50%, 60% or whatever, 70%. And then there's a percentage that we're not aware of, where we need a guide to take us to the next level. So I would say that in terms of morality, you know, Sikhs have no problem understanding that the guru gives us that extra, what is a full truth. But when you look at the guru and you think, oh, he acted compassionately, and your heart melts. That's part of God within you, because we're made of compassion. For us, we believe that the 5 qualities that are very important for us to have are truth, contentment, compassion, justice, and forgiveness. So when we see that in our gurus, our heart intrinsically tears up. When people are watching a video on YouTube and they see something amazing and the tears coming up, that's just because their soul is reacting to the goodness of that person.
Absolutely.
They don't need someone to come and tell them this is good. We have an inclination towards goodness. So with the gurus, when we see them, the wow comes from, and just look at them and go, wow.
Absolutely.
But then the gurus teach us further what more is left from beyond just what we figured out through our natural human, divine
So that
nature.
30% you'd have to trust your guru, basically.
Yeah, and you build that trust based upon their life and how they lived and what they did and what they said. But also, like I said earlier, it's not just about what they said and what they did, but how that, when you put that into practice, how it affects you. For example, let's say you like going to the gym, just for the feeling. So now you may have a trainer at the gym, or if you don't have a trainer, you might have read books.
Yeah.
Or you might have met people that are trained, they might have guided you at the beginning and now you're okay by yourself. But now you might be training somebody else. And the only reason they look at you and say, oh, take his advice is because they think, oh, he must have worked on it for a little while, he must know something about it. Right? So in the same way, the guru's like that, but then when that person puts your philosophy into practice, or when you put somebody else's philosophy into practice, and it works for you, then you know, this way is real, it works. You see what I mean? So it's based upon experience, but it's also based upon trust. And
So according to that, does the Sikh tradition believe like other traditions are pathway to salvation as well?
we believe that there's truth in many, many
Like
faiths.
for example, say I happen to be a Buddhist, right? And I adopt Buddhism one day, hypothetically. And Buddhism works for me. I trust the Buddha, right? 70% is intuitive, 30% I trust in Buddha's life and his teachings. Then would that be a path to salvation according to the Sikh tradition?
Well,
Are you
remember,
perennialist?
when you were saying 70% to 100%, for us the 100% truth is only from the Guru.
I see.
But
So you're not perennialist, basically.
what's that?
Basically, all rivers lead to the same sea.
Yeah, we do believe in that as well. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that a person, an individual.
By the way,
should-
I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm trying to find out what you actually
Yeah,
believe in. Right?
a normal human person doesn't need the 100% the truth to get salvation.
Okay.
Yeah? The standard that God requires from a normal human being is not that high.
So say I don't
So a
believe in
normal
it.
person just needs to meditate upon God's name, be a good human, and try their best. Because we're all imperfect, we're all flawed individuals in some way. Yeah? So the standard is not that high. So you don't have to know all the truth to get salvation. Same way, when you look at a Buddhist, it doesn't mean that every Buddhist is the same. Every Buddhist has got a different philosophy. So when you look at a Buddhist, you have to look at that one person individually. What did that person think? What did it say? What did it do? So everybody gets judged on these three things. So we believe that everybody has a book, right? And that book consists of what we said, what we thought, and what we did.
Yes.
Yeah? Man, Bachkaram, and these three things, they determine what your judgment is. Yeah? And everybody gets judged. And it's continuous judgment. So the minute you die, you get judged. You don't have to wait around for a judgment day. You get judged straight away. And then based upon that, you might come back into reincarnation. You might come back into the animal life or a human life, or a better a human life. You might get a more spiritual family, or you might get salvation.
Final question, which I think is important for me, because the way I became Muslim was due to this question, right? So what I would say then is, so there's an element of trusting the Guru because of his teachings. We have this intuitive, natural standard that we apply to things. This is great, this is nice, this is moral. We have that 30% of applying these teachings and living out these teachings.
No, I didn't say 30%. I just said that was just like a standard. That was the name. Like, our heart intrinsically appeals to 50% or 70%.
Oh, I see what you're saying. And then there's that element where we have to trust.
We have to learn.
We can learn,
So
okay.
You talk about the sound of 100%
Okay,
truth.
brilliant.
You said, where does it come from? I said, like, you might get a lot of that from yourself.
Yep.
The rest of the standard comes from the Guru, but that you take that standard because based on the trust of the Guru.
The trust of
So
the
I wasn't saying that the Guru then does the next 30% for you.
Absolutely.
It's just that he might not. He gives
That's
you
what I
100%
meant.
truth.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But you might yourself might have worked out 50% or 10% or whatever.
Okay, good. So what I would want to find out is how would I therefore ground myself, just rationally, ground the Guru in some truth. For example, I want to go to the Guru now and have him as a pathway to the divine.
Yeah.
To remove my ego. By the way, everything you said is very similar to the concept of the fitrah in the Islamic tradition. That we already have knowledge of God, we already have an aspect that we want to worship God, and we basically cloud the natural
That's
disposition.
what I was trying to say earlier, that
Yeah.
the truth isn't limited to one religion. It's in all religions.
So the point
you
of-
find similar things in Buddhism, you find
Yeah,
similar
exactly.
things in
From
Hinduism,
an ethical point of view, I 100% agree. But I'm just wondering about, for someone who to be attached to a guru,
yeah.
I would require some kind of what you call rational evidence, intellectual evidence, loosely. So I'd like to ask, what do we have in his life that shows to us the truth of his life? That would be my question.
Yeah, I mean,
Like a historical person, I could make up a historical person X, hypothetically, and X, the unknown, right, lived 1,000 years ago, and there are all these amazing narratives about this person.
yeah.
Is that enough for me to follow X?
Well,
I would want to know a few things. Number one, are those narratives true, and how do we know that they're true? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. With the gurus, what you've got is not just their lives, but also their own personal writings.
Okay.
So the guru is written Japji Sahib, Gurbani, the first guru wrote the very first prayer that every Sikh reads in the morning. It's their own words. So they wrote it, they were very literal.
an annoying voice.
So when you read their writings, then the writings have an impact upon you. So for example, how I got into Sikhi, what I would say is two or three things. The first one was through meditation on God's name. When I started experiencing God, it changed my life. Right? I experienced the divine, I felt the bliss, the love, all that kind of stuff, and I just felt like, wow, this is amazing. The second thing is when I started reading what the gurus taught, their philosophy, I was like, wow, this is amazing philosophy, this can change the world, this is the truth. It appeals to me so much. Then the other thing is that when I was sitting in what they recommended as the highest place on earth, which is in the holy congregation, singing the words of the Guru. Because remember, the Guru didn't just write philosophy, he wrote poetry.
Yes.
He wrote poetry that can be sung, and he put it to music. He said, use this music, sing it this way, and you will feel good. So when I felt that, it just transported me to another world. And then there's the other side, they experience the Guru themselves. But the Guru isn't gone for us, he's not a dead person. There's all these souls that come here, and we believe in reincarnation, we believe that souls live on. So the Guru isn't gone, the Guru is still here. You can experience the Guru. So the grace of the Guru, the love of the Guru, the love with the Guru can happen to a Sikh. So I would say that Sikhism has a lot of rationality around it, but the core essence of a Sikh is not based on a rational acceptance of the Guru, but it's based upon the love of the Guru. And the Guru actually puts that in his own words. He said, listen everybody, I speak the truth. Only those who love will find God. So the Guru becomes a person you fall in love with.
I don't.
And we've got a lot of history, obviously.
I empathize with that.
The religion is not that old. You could say 1,000 years ago, it's only 300 years ago. And within that 300 years, we've got all this philosophy, teachings, the actual places they live, what they said, what they did, their own writings. So with the Gurus, historically, we're quite blessed in that sense. So we know they were around. They weren't just somebody made it up. We know what they wrote. We know what they did. We've got people, families and generations that are still now linked to the Guru's lineage who are around. So historically, we're blessed. And then obviously, spiritually, we're very blessed.
So it seems to me that the answer to my question that I needed some kind of rational grounding still is
it's still there.
contingent on
All the history is there.
in an emotional, spiritual thing.
Well,
right?
no, I don't think that's
experiential.
fair.
Because you said that it's love. It's a love, trusting him because it's through love, and understanding his teachings, internalizing his teachings. I'm not dismissing it. I find that very profound. Don't get me wrong. But I think for it to be slightly more holistic, and it's one of the reasons why I became Muslim is because not only do you have what you call the nafsiyah, the internal psychological disposition, the spirituality, the ethics, the rules and stuff like that, the experiences, but you also have it grounded in a rational tradition.
Okay.
And I find that powerful.
I think the thing here is
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I'll just explain. I've watched nearly all your videos for the rational arguments for God and found them lacking. That's my personal view. I wouldn't be offensive to you by just giving you my view. So what's it? And the thing is I think that you've got some standard inside you which you're trying to say it's got to be rational, but that rational standard doesn't really even stand up. Your own argument doesn't stand up to that standard. So here's my view.
Why do you think that's the case?
Because I watched your videos and it didn't really make me believe in God. If I was an atheist, I wouldn't believe in God based on those arguments.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that you can argue that you've got a rational viewpoint that can convince
I totally
everybody.
appreciate what you're saying.
Because a lot of people watch your videos and don't believe the comments.
No, of course.
So when you say rational, it seems to imply
Can I-
transferability to everybody. That it must be something so rational that most rational people would agree with it.
Okay,
but I don't think that's
let me give you the premise here, right? We believe in the fitra, the natural disposition, that we know God exists and He deserves to be worshipped. This is the natural disposition, right? We have this.
Died here.
Oh, okay. The battery.
We have this innate nature, yeah? This natural disposition that we appreciate the oneness of God, we appreciate that God deserves to be worshipped, right?
Yeah.
And this is the fitra, it's called the innate disposition. Imagine it like a glass.
But we talked about this earlier.
Yeah,
that's
but,
not a new point.
Yeah, but I want to bring it to this point.
Okay.
And what we say is, if this glass is clouded or dirty, it requires cleaning.
Yeah.
Cleaning
Agreed.
can include rational arguments, can include the Quran,
Agreed.
the Sunnah, spiritual teachings,
Right.
ethics, experiences, right? So it cleans the fitra.
What's new in there from what I've talked
exactly. No, what's new is you've assumed that I'm using the argument as an end, not a means. Arguments are a means just to clean the fitna.
Right.
And what I wanted to take up upon, I totally appreciate you have an opinion on what old debates or whatever rubbish I used to talk about, right? But the point is, it is a claim. My question was, why aren't they coherent enough for you? That was my view, that was my point. But that's going to go to another topic which is irrelevant.
That's kind of like you're judging me now on my rationality and logic.
No, I'm not. I'm saying you said that they weren't rational enough. And I'm just asking
I'm just saying
why.
about your standard, because what you said to me now is very similar to what I would say to any Sikh. Say if you want to get into Sikhi and you like what the Gurus are teaching, then go into the Gurdwara, listen to explanations of the scripture, sit in the holy congregation, chant God's name. What that will do is slowly wash your soul, what you were talking about earlier, and allow that light inside to come out, and you can experience God. And when that experience happens, then you'll have real faith, because it'll be based upon the experience of God. Before that, you've still got doubt, because you're not quite sure. When that experience happens to you, that's it. You know, it's happening to you right now. It ties in with what every single of the 36 people that wrote in Guru Granth Sahib Ji have also said. So it ties in. It's not just the Gurus, but it's the people that weren't even the Gurus, like Ram, Kabir Ji and Ramanand. These people, it ties in with them. So then it gives you a sort of external confirmation that it's not just the Gurus, it's everybody else who's also, some people are before the Gurus, like Sheikh Farid is before the Gurus, other people are after the Gurus, so not after the Gurus, but obviously they're the Gurus' time. And it can also tie in with the people that have since then lived as Sikhs, earned the Sikh teachings and experienced the same divine. So it becomes, and it ties in with mystics across the world. So, you know, the mystical tradition is not just a Sikh tradition. It's in the Sufis, like we had our brothers here earlier, the Sufi brothers. It's in the Sufis, it's in the Christians, it's all over the world. So what we're talking about is that looking at the world as a whole, it gives you that, you know what, I'm not just having a crazy experience that no one else has had before. This is an experience that's happened to loads of people of different traditions, and they all walk the same path, which to me is very rational to accept that as an argument for this, that you're not having a crazy experience, and the Guru is giving you grace.
I would disagree with that. I tell you why, because if we just solely rely on the spiritual aspect, when we solely rely on the spiritual aspect,
that is God.
Yeah, but
you can't just say just don't rely upon God to believe in God. Believe in something else as well.
But the point is,
God is God. God is.
You already have a standard of God, and you're trying to fit your experiences.
No, I don't have a standard of God. I've got an experience of God. I'm not talking about a standard of God. I'm just saying experience of God.
You're saying it's God, then you have an experience, and it reaffirms God. So you're starting with
you have the Guru's teachings, taught by the Guru, and then you put them into practice. He's like an instructor, right? The word Guru actually is very similar to the idea of an instructor. So he's got people that are
you mentioned that before.
So it doesn't really make much sense to say to me, I don't think it's fair that you believe in your gym teacher, because now after his teachings you've become fit and strong, and now you've got faith in him. That's not fair. You looked at him first, you saw that he was fit. That's by his shoe. He was trying his way, and now you're trying it and you become fit and strong, and now you've got faith in him. That means that you decided what was fit first. You're right in a way.
Have you studied philosophy?
You do know that. I do.
Oh, you have. Okay, good. So I did this for a postgrad, right? And then what you would understand is that just because something works, it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah, agreed.
You have to appreciate that.
No, I agree.
So your whole premise.
And then I gave you the other idea about the confirmation from all the other different faiths, and understand that what you're going through is not just a Sikh thing. It's just mystics across the world.
Yeah, that's fine. That's if you believe that's grounded in some kind of rational truth. The point is, you have to understand that just because something works, it doesn't mean it's true. Like in the scientific method, for example, they had this theory called phlogiston. Phlogiston. It was in the 1700s. Now, phlogiston was very interesting because they said that any combustible object that burnt, it would release phlogisticated air. Now, that was a workable theory in the 1700s that chemists used, and Dan Rutherford in 1772 or 1773, he basically used that theory to discover nitrogen, discover the truth. But then they find out later that that theory of phlogiston was false. So this is one example of many that in the philosophy of science, just because something works, it doesn't mean it's true. Likewise, in spirituality, just because something works, it doesn't mean it's true. And that's why I want you to find out what Sikhism is about, because everything you've said really, for me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, can be reduced to just an experiential thing, which is fine. It's very needed. Don't get me wrong. Okay. Islam is very important.
I've understood the point. I don't need any more explanation. Okay. So
you should let me talk as well, though. Yeah.
No. You spoke for quite a while. I think you spoke for quite a while. But here's the point, right?
You get that point what I'm saying?
When you,
Just
yeah,
because
I do
it works
understand.
doesn't
I'll
mean it's
explain to
true.
you how I
Yeah.
understand that it's true. When I was studying philosophy at university, one of the things we talked about was actually this idea of experiential. And how do we know what is true? So one of the arguments we make is, well, the colour purple, right, is a subjective thing. It's not necessarily objective, right?
Yeah.
So one of the problems with
experience of purple,
the experience of colour, experience of anything,
Absolutely.
most things are purely subjective. You can't objectify them. So how they decide to go beyond this kind of Descartes philosophy where you're not Descartes, but kind of like you're living in your own solipsism, I think.
Yeah, solipsism.
They're just living their own world and nothing else makes sense. Is Descartes try to get to it through God. Yeah? We try to get through it just by trying to think of it like logic, yeah? Like even if I spend all day thinking, I can't prove that's purple. When I go home, I say to my wife, you like this purple top? She knows it's purple, I know it's purple. Everybody around me knows it's purple. If I spend my whole day working out, can I know it's purple or not? Maybe it's a different purple. I'm going to be basically wasting my time because it's kind of idiocy. Right? I said earlier, it's like if you assume that people are idiots, then yeah, they can't do that. But people aren't idiots, yeah? Because God hasn't made us to be idiots, because God's, the creator. So, taking that argument, when colour is subjective, in the same way you might say, well actually, colour may be subjective, but really it's quite objective because most people tend to agree upon it. So you can generalise, otherwise you couldn't really live or survive.
Yeah, for some things, absolutely.
So in the same way, when I said to you earlier, when you have that experience of God, okay, it's
the same as the colour
A is
purple.
backed up by what the Guru is saying.
Yeah.
B is backed up by all the other people inside the Guru Granth Sahib that are not even Sikh, from the Sikh background.
But why is what the Guru is saying is true? That was my question from the beginning.
The point of it being true is that it works.
Yeah, but
No.
what works doesn't mean it's true.
But the fact that it works and it's worked consistently for different people of different faiths, different backgrounds, and the Gurus, and that they say that
Just
it's
like
true.
Phlogiston, bro. It
No.
worked and it came out to be false.
No. The point here is that
Newton's laws work, but they're not
okay,
absolutely
but
true.
here's the thing: until someone can,
But do you see my point?
And so until someone can disprove that the experience I'm having or what the Gurus are saying is not true, right? I'm entitled to believe that.
Okay,
it
there's
is
two
true,
ways to disprove
right?
your experience
Firstly,
hypothetically. Number one, with another experience, and that just becomes subjective. Or number two, by some external criteria, like reason or rationality.
yeah,
Do you
but
see
that
my point?
external criteria that you gave earlier about why you think rationally Islam is true.
I didn't give any
didn't really
criteria.
work.
I didn't give you
No, but
criteria.
you've done it online too many times in arguments.
Yeah, but let's be fair, bro.
And to be honest, it's not really
let's be
worked.
fair. Let's be fair.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's
It's
be,
been
let's be
complicated
fair.
and stuff, but
Let me just tell you something. This is nasiha advice to you, right? Never in a conversation with someone refer to the old work, especially when you're not even saying what is wrong about it. That's a bit unfair.
No.
And I would say not part of the ethics of discussion. I could say to you, bro, I saw a video of you talked about Abdurrahman Green 2 years ago in a video, and you know what? You're slightly incoherent here. I think it's bad,
that's a fair
adab, bro.
point to make if you say it.
Yeah, but you haven't even said
You
what
can
was
say
wrong
it.
with it. That's my
Yeah.
point. You just keep on saying it's wrong, but you're not saying why it's wrong.
Yeah, but it didn't. What I did say to you why I thought it was wrong, because it didn't, as a rational person, convince me that there is a God.
No, but that's not the statement. That's a claim. You need to tell me why why is that claim true?
No, but surely, when you're saying
you see what I'm trying to say here?
rationality, you're pointing to an idea that someone who is rational listens to you and then goes, yeah, it's true. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I do a physics experiment. I throw a ball off a cliff, it falls down. I have a camera that measures its speed, and I say to people, well, use this camera to measure the speed, and the ball fell at this speed. Every rational person would buy that. Only an irrational person would say no. So the arguments you presented, I don't have to go to specifics of each one. What I can say is rationally, they haven't worked. And the proof of that is not just me, is that many people have watched your work who are rational people and not bought it.
Wait, I'm going to hold on to you.
But let me give you the
You're
opposite.
still not
Let me
saying
give you the
why.
opposite. Many people
have become Muslim.
Let me finish.
Many people have found them rational.
True. But the other thing is,
So how
that
is
many
what
people
you-
haven't.
how
But
is your
here's,
claim-
here's my argument.
how's it
Many
validated?
people have understood this rationality argument I'm talking about, that the experience is not just subjective. By taking the idea of colour, you can take the objectivity, apply it across the board, and look at other people of different faiths and backgrounds, and actually say, oh, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. It's actually the truth, and it's not just
You are my
purely.
friend.
But listen,
Bro.
here the point is, I haven't met a single person who's experienced the divine in the way that we just talked about. I met a guy earlier who was I don't know what he was.
Well, you've met me.
Well, anyway, but I don't know if you've
I'm
had
not
that
a Sikh,
experience.
I'm not a
We
Sikh.
haven't talked about that experience and what you've experienced.
Yeah.
But this guy talked about his experience of God, and I talked about
There's
my
millions
experience.
of people.
Point is, when he was agreeing with everything I'm talking about, because rationally it makes sense to him.
Oh, yeah.
But the rationality comes from the lens of that spirituality.
Sure.
Any rationality
I'm
devoid of
not denying that.
spirituality, for me,
I'm
it's not
with
really
you
worth
100%
anything.
on the spirituality issue, right? When I'm trying to deconstruct,
Like the Sufi brothers.
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
spiritual.
Absolutely.
They agree with us.
Absolutely.
Right? So
well, I don't disagree with you about the innate nature and about spirituality and ethics, connecting with the divine. I'm with you here, right?
Yeah.
My only issue is the how you connect with the divine according to your tradition. Because you said you can't equate the experience of purple and knowing it's purple with a tradition that requires a whole set of teachings and experiences to understand its truth. Because purple you understand without any of those.
I'm losing you because
Okay.
like, I don't know if you're going too philosophical, but
Okay.
it's hard to understand what
Is
you're
this
saying.
blue?
Yes.
This is yellow.
Yes.
Good. This is the beautiful beard, right? MashaAllah. So you got beautiful beard. So we know it's a beard, it's blue, and it's yellow.
Yeah.
I don't need a set of intermediary experiences to understand that.
Yeah.
I don't need a whole philosophy, a theology to understand that, right? So it's you're falsely equating two things here. You
No,
can't
what am I
equate.
falsely equating?
Let me explain, man.
Okay, go on.
You can't equate the feeling of purple, the understanding that those are white trainers, with the fact that the Buddhist teachings are absolutely true. Because you even just said before, you need a bunch of experiences, you need the Buddhist teachings. So for me, you can't equate those two things as the same. Does that make sense?
Okay. I said to you earlier.
I'm for me, I'm just saying a lot of the things that you're saying are nice, they're
Let's say-
fluffy, but they're very incoherent.
Okay, no, they're not. I'll explain to you.
Yeah, sure.
You could be sitting in a dark room and you don't know about colours,
Yes.
right? Because like I said to you earlier, God is not something that
It's like the Frank Jackson experiment.
I don't know who that guy is, but I'm making this up on the spot, right? So
You said you studied philosophy.
yeah,
so-
but I don't know who that guy is.
Okay, cool.
Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to the point. So we're sitting in a dark room because, like Plato was talking about, the people in the cave, they don't know the
Absolutely.
truth, right? So most people are unaware of God. Most people are totally separate from God in that
Yes,
sense.
yes.
So a person separate from God is very similar to someone sitting in a dark room.
Okay.
Right? Now, when they're in this dark room, we're trying to explain to them colour.
Yeah.
They're like, so black in here, bro.
You have to experience color.
Yeah. So the person says, you can give me all this philosophy, mate, but I'm not going to believe in it until I see colour. Right? That doesn't mean that person is wrong for having trusted you that there is colour because you've just come in from outside and told them all outside. They might have a doubt in your mind, in their mind that, oh, is there colour or not? Is this guy just pulling it? You know, on me, it's always been dark, but I've been there. But they say, you know what? I'll give you a proof. Why don't you hold my hand, come with me through that door, and I'll take you into colour, and you see colour. Now, it would not be fair to say that person is irrational to choose to follow that person.
Agreed.
It would be irrational. It would be a rational thing to say, you know what, why not try it? If that person, you've known them for a long time, they looked after you, they took care of you, they were very trustworthy, you would say, let's go for it, let's try. And then you go outside and voila, you see colour. And not only do you see colour, you see a whole bunch of other people walking around who also see colour. And they all agree that that is purple, and that is yellow jumper, and that's a blue hoodie, and that's a nice beard.
Yes.
They all agree with you. So suddenly you think, hallelujah, it must be true. And that would not be an irrational person.
No, I agree.
Well, there we go.
But that's a solely experience.
And what we're talking about from the beginning, bro.
Well, no, but you just said something else.
What?
You have to remind what you said. You said you've experienced any of the Guru's teachings. So coming back to my original question that you tried to answer was, how do you rationally ground the Guru's teachings?
I just said to you, it's like,
No, because you separated Guru's
you know, you've got
teachings
that
from
weird
experience.
argument, the 40
no,
devices.
no.
Are we doing some circular kind of thing going on here as
No,
well?
no,
It feels like we're just going round in
Allow
circles.
the ad hominems there. I'm not cussing
Honestly.
you. Allow the cusses, right? Let's keep the other.
No, but-
you're known to be a nice guy.
I'm trying to be nice.
And a
But
bad
it's
guy
hard.
like me, I
I'm
don't want to
trying
shame you. I'm supposed to be the
I'm
bad
not,
guy,
I'm
right?
not a nice guy. But
No,
let
you
me
are a
say-
nice guy.
No, I'm
Listen to me.
trying.
What I'm trying to say
to
to
be a
you
nice
is-
guy. I'm trying to listen to you.
Did you-
But I'll explain something I thought made sense to most people.
No,
but you've just gone back and said it doesn't make sense.
I just said it makes sense. No, it makes sense, but I'm trying to see how it makes sense within everything that you've said. So what you're saying is,
Do you agree that guy was rational? In the
it's
dark
rational
room.
to a degree, but
Right.
if
So I'm the guy in the
Okay,
dark room. I'm the guy in the dark room.
okay, but if that guy
right?
told you, therefore, there is no gravity after that, you're not going to trust him, right?
True, but the Guru
Exactly.
doesn't say anything lies to me.
But that's my point. My point is, for someone who doesn't accept Islam, right, is someone, he may know what colors look like, but it's like taking the guy at the dark room saying that's purple, and then the guy's trusting him because saying it's purple, but then it's saying, look at the horizon, the earth is flat. So just because I'm
Just
trusting...
because someone doesn't believe in Islam, then you're saying they're equivalent to somebody who could get told a lie later on, but they're not sure. They could never work out if it was true or
sorry,
not.
you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is, you could trust someone that if you're in a dark room all your life and they've taken it out and said, look at colour, and this is the colour purple,
And it's
you
worked.
can trust them. But
you can't just trust
but
that one
can you
person.
tr- fine.
It's that what I talked about earlier, the rationality that it's not just
Yes,
one
but then
person.
can you trust him if he tells you something that is irrational? That's my point.
It's a good question. The question,
And that's what I've been trying to get
Okay,
at all along.
alright.
Because
So-
you distinguish between the
So,
experiences
let-
and the Guru's teachings.
let me go into something
You remember that
else.
70-30% thing
Okay,
that you mentioned about?
Okay.
And I've asked, can you ground the Guru's teachings as evidence? And you can't rely on experiences because you've disconnected them. So therefore, what is the evidence for the Guru's teachings?
Fair enough.
And you've spent quite a long time not doing
Here's the
that. Just
thing. I'll
people
explain.
talk about
I'll
experiences,
explain to you.
which is a secular argument.
Let's say, for example, somebody comes into Sikhism who's not from a Sikh background or an Indian background,
Yeah.
so they're white. Yeah? They come in, they meditate, they start experiencing God, right? And they believe in the Guru's experience about God. They buy that. You're cool. But then they've never heard about reincarnation, and they've got this philosophy. They think, I don't know if I can believe in this philosophy, you know, because
absolutely.
I have no proof of this and whatever, right? So fair enough. Now, the Guru says that Sikhi is about enlightenment. So it's not just one door when you open and you see colour. There's a whole bunch of other things that are going to happen afterwards as you go through more and more doors of enlightenment. A bit like.
And how do you know that's true though?
Well, let me just explain. As you go through a cave analogy, right? You're coming out and out, and you're expanding your horizon and your doors of perception.
Yeah.
Right? So initially, you might say, well, I'm not sure if reincarnation is true or not. However, based on what the Guru's told me so far, right? And I haven't experienced it, but I believe what he said so far, and I believe in the morals of the Guru so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reserve judgment on whether it's true or not. I'm going to trust the Guru, but the Guru does say it's possible for you to keep growing spiritually to the point where you can experience your previous life. When you have that experience of your previous life, voila! Now you not only listened to it, followed it, but you've actually now accepted it to be true because you've seen it to be
These little
true.
experiences, basically.
Right, but the whole of Sikhi is about spirituality and because at one point the soul goes from somebody who's in a dark room
Okay, good.
to being somebody being totally one with
Now
God.
I've got it.
Totally
This is
one
very-
with God.
it's a very
so
enlightening conversation.
It's all about growth.
So this is where maybe the subtle difference between Sikhism and Islam comes into play, right?
Sure, go ahead.
Where Islam, from that point of view, has the whole concept of the fitrah, the innate disposition, ibadah, worship, which means to love God, to know God, to obey God, and to single all acts of worship to Him alone. We have this kind of profound kind of theo-philosophy, if you like, with this idea, concept, reality of the oneness of God, affirming His oneness, tawheed,
Yeah, we've got that as
in
well.
His names and attributes, in His singularity.
You got to give me some differences. So far, I hear similarities.
Yeah, I'm connecting with
Okay,
you, man.
all
So I think the difference is here is that no matter where you go with your experiences, there's always going to be this very base grounding. Call it rationality, call it innate truth.
Where is that? Where are you?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're
I'm
waiting
gonna
for
tell
me
you what
to
it
say
is.
go and give me the rationality.
No, I'm not, I don't want you to say that.
No.
What I'm saying is that we would say Tawheed, the conceptualization of the divine,
Yeah.
as per the Islamic tradition, is that foundation. So your experiences are seen through them. Because, for example, someone came up to me, a Christian, he said, I had a dream of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And a Jew could come up to me and say, I had a dream of Moses.
Yeah.
And a Buddhist said, I had a dream of Buddha.
Yeah.
Now, as a human being, I'm not going to deny his experiences.
Yeah, of
I
course
mean, that's evil,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Because you deny them. You
Yeah,
deny
yeah.
your relationship now,
Yeah, it's
right?
real, yeah.
What I do, though, and I try to do it in the most compassionate way, I say, look, the way to really understand your experiences is to understand the filter, the lenses that you use to see your experiences, right?
Get somebody
So
else
what
to
I
come.
do then, I go to those filters and lenses. And that's very critical. Because many people have different experiences, but they have different truths.
Yeah.
And that's fundamental,
Okay.
right?
So how do you reconcile that then? You yourself.
so
So,
what
you
I
got a
would
guy
say-
who's saying I had Buddha, another
Hold
guy
this
saying
here.
I had
Give me the
Jesus
keys to the
and
car.
Moses. How do you as an
I
individual,
would just
what do
teach
you
you-
say? That actually in your heart, I'll ask a simple question.
Yeah.
In your heart, do you think that the dream was purely in their mind, but there's no other link to it? There's no external
No,
reality?
we believe that,
Do you believe Buddha is around?
there are three types
Is
of
he
dreams.
gone?
There are three types of dreams, for example. One type of dream is from the divine, one is based on musings and thoughts, and one is from basically the kind of negative realm, the satanic realities, right?
Shaitan.
Yeah, shaitan. So from that point of view, we do appreciate that dreams have a basis. But what I'm saying here is, how do you get them to see the experiences via the lenses of truth? And
But
that's
what
and
is
that's
it? But you've already decided
Well,
what the
yeah,
lens of truth is.
yeah,
So
no,
you-
exactly. But then that's
I've
a-
got a lens of truth as well for me, the Guru. So I'm
but
asking you now,
no, you're
how would
missing
you
the
see
point.
it?
Let me
But
finish my
it's a
point.
simple question. Tell me how you see it.
Let me finish my point and answer your question. My point here is, since you understand that people have experiences and you can filter them through different lenses,
Yeah.
what you've solely given to me at the moment is just experiences, right? You haven't showed to me why your filters or lenses are true. And that's my point. Because I could talk about any form of spirituality and make it coherent because it's within that paradigm. What I'm saying to you, let's step out of the paradigm, right? Let's step out of the paradigm. We have certain lenses that you're viewing your narratives, your spiritual discourse, whatever you want to call it. And I'm saying what Islam does for me, and obviously we probably can't discuss this today, it takes a long time, that it gives me those filters. That's my point.
Also,
But you've chosen a filter that makes sense to you.